Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Sabbath. Glad to see each one of you's here. I started out with a message, pretty much the same as what it is now, but it was a lot longer. So I went and chopped it down, and now it's kind of scary. I don't have near as much. But what we're going to look at today, a couple weeks ago when we didn't have church, we had the Bible study would have been on Esau and Jacob. And that's who we're going to look at today. In the book of Genesis, we've been studying that. It's, as we mentioned this morning, it's a fantastic book, and you can see the families, how they're put together. And today we're going to look at, if you remember, Abraham and Sarah. They had kind of a dysfunctional relationship, and he was supposed to have children, and they were old. And so when Sarah was told that she was going to have children, she just laughed. Probably shouldn't have done that, but anyhow. So in the meantime, they tried to take matters in their own hands, and Hagar was given to Abraham to have children with, in which she did, but it wasn't what God had planned. And so before we go much further here this morning, let's bow for an added word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you this morning, Lord, that we can be in your house, study your word. Lord, just be with the speaker as he brings the message to you, putting on his lips the words that you would have the folks who are here and can adjust to their lives. And we just thank you for what you've done for us at the cross, Lord. And we're so thankful for that, and that we are still being molded, the molded clay, and that we are not being tossed away. We just thank you for these things, Lord. We just thank you the way you work in broken lives and bringing about what you want to have done now. So we just want to bring honor and glory to your name now. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so when Abraham and Sarah had a child, his name was Isaac, right? And Abraham, if you remember, took Isaac, his only child, to the mountain to be sacrificed, and God intervened there. So he was tested and passed the test. So then we start to look at Isaac grows up and takes a wife, Rebekah, and she is barren. And so we see here the first intervention of God here in this situation, and she becomes pregnant and has a set of twins. And so that's the first thing we see happening here. Let's see, let me get things going here, right? Chapter 25, you can follow me along here. We're going to be doing a lot of reading from it today. Chapter 25, verse 21 to 23. It says, "And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated to him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord." Now, we don't know much what happens in the womb, but you can imagine if these little guys are already struggling and fighting around, there must be something in the works. So in 24 here, verse 24 to 27, it says, when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out. And his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So he was 80, that's 60. So he was 60 years old when he was a father. And as we go on here, in verse 27, it says, And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And then we see something happening here, or something coming up with this family, Isaac and Rebekah. Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So each one loved different children. And it says, looking at Esau's character here, we just spoke about that he was a man of the field and loved to hunt. And it says, as we go on here in verse 29, And Jacob sawed pottage, or he cooked porridge, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint, he was tired, he needed fed. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, now Esau was the firstborn, so he had the birthright to begin with. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die. What profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. The firstborn got special privileges. He assumes more responsibility and is rewarded with more honor and given a family inheritance instead of one giving that each of the younger brothers received. So he got double portions of whatever the other kids had. And occasionally, the firstborn fell out of favor and was replaced by a younger brother. So the younger brother became the firstborn. In this case, Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. He gave up his important rights, responsibilities, and honor that were his by birth. Esau was firstborn and was red and hairy, like a garment. Must have been pretty fuzzy. Jacob was second and took hold of Esau's heel. And I better get back on track here. If we look at a revelation that regarding Esau's character from Hebrews 12 to 14, it says that he had no regard for his birthright. Esau didn't. And so that's why he gave it up. It wasn't important to him, but it was important to Jacob. In chapter 27, 14 to 17, we'll just look at that for a second here, 27, 14 to 17. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. So this is what Esau enjoyed. That's why he loved Esau. Why he loved Esau was that he could hunt and he'd bring in good meat for him. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob, his younger son. So we see here as we go along that they began a plan to deceive Isaac. And that's in the first 17 verses here on 27. And it says, "And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, he could not see. He called Esau his eldest son and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver and thy bow, and go out in the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, and that my soul may bless thee before I die." So even though he lost the birthright, he still is looking to be blessed. So the mother, Rebekah, heard when Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah spake to Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make me savory meat, that I may eat, and bless thee before the Lord, before my death. So Rebekah says to Jacob now, Therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, and that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. So this is the plan. Jacob's going to get 2 from the flock of sheep and bring them in and prepare this food for a father. He's going along with the program, no problem at all. And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall see him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, Upon me be the curse, my son, and obey my voice. Go fetch them me. So she says, if he's going to curse anyone, let it be on me. So he went out then and fetched and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat such as the father loved. And Rebekah took godly raiment of her eldest son, goodly raiment, I should say, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. So she took Esau's clothing and put some of them on him. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. This is the first deception now. I am Esau, the firstborn. I have done according as thou bidst me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord God brought it to me. And Isaac said to Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father and felt him, and he said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are thy hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy as his brother's Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him and said, See, the smell of my son is the smell of the field, which the Lord had blessed. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth, plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that cursed thee, and blessed be that bless thee. So he didn't fool his father, even though he had the voice of Jacob, but his raiment and his smells were of Esau. So then Jacob leaves, and it says, It came to pass as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac, his father, that Esau came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat and brought it to his father. And we'll skip down a little bit. He says, And Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it to me? And I have eaten of all before thou comest, and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessings. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And so Esau is very bitter. And you can understand why. So, if we look at verse 41, it says, And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So he was going to wait till his father passed away, till Isaac passed away, and then he was going to go after his brother and kill him. So when the parents knew of the death threat against their younger son, Jacob, so their response was in verse 27, or chapter 27, verse 42. It says, And these words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. So she and Isaac also are worried for Jacob. So they send him away. He's to go to her brother, Laban, in Haran. He says, Go there until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which he hath done. Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? So he goes and leaves to go to Laban's place. On his way north, if we look over at verse 28, verses down around verse 10, I guess it starts. You know, Jacob really did some bad things here, and he was feeling it. He knew he'd done wrong, and he didn't know what to do. But he was going to go over, like his mother said, to Laban's place. So he went on his way from out of Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted here in verse 11, 28:11, said he lighted here upon a certain place and tarried there all night because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows. So he stacked up some stones for his pillows and lay down in that place to sleep. So then he had a dream. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth. And the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, to the east, the north, and the south. And in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So he has this dream. He sees the ladder going from earth up into heaven. So what did that mean? What was this blessing that he was given at this time? Did he understand it? In other words, it says, in 15, and behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places where thou goest, and will bring thee again into this land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee. So Jacob knows now that the only way to heaven or through God is through God, and he has to go through God to get to that and be forgiven. And then we look at Jacob's vow, what he says here. He says in 16, and Jacob awakened out of his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillow and set it for a pillar, and poured oil upon it and upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. But the name of the city was called Luz at first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way, that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And he says next here in 22, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that thou givest me, I will surely give thee the tenth unto thee. So he's talking about giving a tenth or the tithe back to God for what he has done. So he goes to Laban's place, and there he meets the love of his life, Rachel. And we know the story where he went there and he asked Laban for his daughter, Rachel. Now, she was the second, Leah was first. And he asked Laban for the marriage of Rachel. And he says, work for me for 7 years, and thou can have her. So Jacob serves Laban for Rachel. in verse 16 of 29 here, 16:29, and Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. So Joseph serves the 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him just but a few days. The time went past. And the marriage is set up. And Jacob says to Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. It came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went in to her. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for a handmaid. Now this is kind of strange, but in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this that thou hast done to me? Did not I serve thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me, or deceived me? So he got deceived a little bit, like he deceived his father. I don't quite understand how he spent the night with her and didn't find out it was her till the next morning. Don't quite understand that. But anyhow, that's the way it was. So then he still wants to marry Rachel. So another 7 years. So a total now of 14 years. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, Bilhah, who went with him as a handmaid. And he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet another 7 years. So he now has 2 wives. He loves one more than the other. He loves Rachel more than the other. And when the Lord here in 31 saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived, and when we go down through here, she had a lot of sons to Jacob, but Rachel was barren. So as we go on down through here we're in chapter 30. Let's look here, see if I just missed anything. These children that Leah had, 11 of them, were going to be the sons of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, one of them, or 11 of them will be. One of them, finally, Rachel has a son, and she called him Joseph, right? So anyhow, she had a lot of children, and things were going along good, but she didn't get a child from Rachel till later on. And here in verse 22, it says about it, chapter 30, verse 22, and God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived, and she called his name Joseph. And we read about him today in Sabbath school, with the coat of many colors, and how he was deceived by these other family members. And so we see that even though we try we try to take matters in our own hands. And even Rachel gave one of her handmaids to Jacob, and had offspring to her. We find out that even though we take things in our own hands, we try to circumvent God's plan, and God will find a way to work it out that his plan comes into effect and that it's carried out. How many times have you intervened in God's will and tried to do things on your own? How'd that work out? A lot of times there's a lot of suffering and a lot of heartaches. But all things work together for the good, and he will work it out and make things right. So that's the story of Esau. That's part of the story. And Jacob, comes a point when he returns back to Canaan. And just to summarize that a little bit, he was worried for his family. He was worried that his brothers were going to kill him. He goes back to his family and meets Esau, and God has not been not active in Esau's life also. And he comes back and they hug each other and weep. And both of them are so glad to see each other again. And we just are thankful for a story like that, for sure. So we'll shut things down at that point